Here I created a contingency table. The data comes from our class survey, although I changed it slightly to simplify the results. So across the top you can see that we had introvert and extrovert as options, and on the left-hand side we had left-handed and right-handed. So there are 63 total extroverts, 99 introverts, and if we go across we can see that there are 4 plus 13 equals 17 left-handed people, 59 plus 86 is 145 right-handed people, and then 162 people total were surveyed. And you can certainly check to see that 162 should be the total going down on that column, and it should also be the total going across the bottom row. And I'll just give you any contingency table and you should be able to answer some questions. The student is left-handed. That would be 17 people out of 162. An extrovert would be 63 out of 162. So notice that I'm using the total number of extroverts divided by the total people in the survey. If I asked you about people who are left-handed and extroverted, then there are only 4 out of the 162 total. Now for each of these fractions, I did convert them to a decimal as well, and I'm in the habit of keeping 2 decimal places, just because then it's easy to also say that that's 10% or 39%. Okay, now the student is left-handed or extroverted. This is the trickiest one to get out of the contingency table. So we need all the left-handed students, which I'm going to circle. And we also are going to include all of the extroverted students. So I'm going to say, I could do this a couple of different ways. I did 17 out of 162. So 17 comes from the probability of being left-handed. And then, so I used this, and then plus P of E, which is 63 out of 162. So you can see if I add those two together, I'm actually counting the extroverted left-handed people twice. And so then we subtract 4 out of 162, and we get 76 out of 162. So left-handed or extroverted ends up being about 47% of the class. It's really about, you can follow this addition rule, or you can look at this contingency table and just say, so the other way to get 76 would be to do 63 plus 4 plus 13, and that will give you 76 out of 162. So that's the other way to do this. Okay, continuing on, are extroversion and left-handedness mutually exclusive? Mutually exclusive means you can't be both. And so the answer is no, it is possible to be both. And if we look at the probability of left-handed and extroverted, we got 2%. So it's a pretty low probability, but it isn't 0. Now, conditional probability, you might have learned about this in Math 105. What is the probability that the student is an extrovert given that they are left-handed? When we say given that they are left-handed, that means that our denominator isn't 162 anymore. We're only looking at left-handed people. So 17 will be the denominator, and extroverts who are left-handed, 4 of those people, 4 of those lefties are extroverts. So that gives me 0.24. I do have students who struggle with this, so I would definitely recommend practicing and seeing what your brain does wrong. And don't freak out, just keep trying. Let's take a look at This is the formula for conditional probability. So before I was just giving you sort of an intuitive example. But here, if I say P of E given L, then the formula says P of E and L over P of L. Up here, the probability of A given B is the probability of A and B over P of B. So you can memorize this, you can put this on your notes sheet to use on the test, but it's really the same thing that we just did. When we were up here, the probability of extrovert given left-handed is the probability of being extroverted and left-handed over the probability of being left-handed. And so I worked it out, 4 over 162, 17 out of 162. A fraction divided by a fraction, you end up doing 4 out of 162 divided by 17 out of 162, and those 162s go away and you just end up with 4 out of 17. If you remember, fraction divided by fraction ends up being the top fraction times the reciprocal of the bottom fraction. And then these cancel out, and that's why we get 4 out of 17, which is 0.24. Another example, what is the probability of being right-handed given that you're extroverted? So number of extroverts goes in the denominator, number of right-handed extroverts goes in the numerator. 59 out of 63. This is a little bit more cumbersome, and I feel like this just makes sense. So remember that whatever the second guy is, that's the one that goes in the denominator, number of extroverts.